This is a review of Survivor Season 47, Episode 1. After a long summer of waiting, a brand new season of Survivor is here, and we are going to break it down episode by episode, and I could not do it without Richie Becerra. Richie, all the way from Chandler, Arizona. How does it feel that Survivor is back, and did it feed that hype that you were feeling?
Dude, it feels so good. I think I said this on like the pre-pump up episode, but fall officially starts for me when Survivor starts. Woke up this morning, the weather's finally getting down into the 60s. We got football on, we got Survivor on. And yes, I think last night's episode definitely lived up to the hype for me.
Dude, I loved episode 1, and I loved, we're going to go through it. We're going to rename the episode. Episode had a great name. I'm going to pull it up here in a second. We're going to rename the episode. We're going to talk about whose stock is up and whose stock is down. And then we're going to do a Survivor press conference. We're going to treat it as if we could hold a press conference after this episode and talk to one player and just hear one thing, but hear it live when they're on the island, not like them now on a podcast. Like, what would we ask them if they let us do that? We're going to do a press conference, maybe a question for Jeff, maybe for a castaway, all that and more. But let's get into the episode because, gosh, we start off with a banger intro, which Survivor intros, like, I do think that's a new era thing where they're much better than, like, they were, like, if you watch the old ones, they're good and they're like, they give you everything you need. But like these new ones, I mean, they just, the slow-mo, the voiceovers, like, what did you make of
Yeah,
this opening?
I think the voiceovers that they've been doing with the castaways doing it instead of Jeff, I actually kind of like a little bit more. And you can tell that like they are hyped 100%. They're ready to go. You can feel the emotion behind their voices when they're talking. You don't really always even get to see them, but you hear them and you can just feel it through the TV.
Yeah, dude, and it's so cool with this cast because episode 1's all about cast, and like what we know is that Kyle, the guy from Michigan, I believe, he apparently like knows very little about Survivor, and he said, yeah, he's just here for the money. Like, it really is not like something that is exciting
Yeah.
for him. But then we also, on the other side, we have Asia, who is a podcast host who has, the number one non-official Survivor podcast. Um, it's so wild that we have this crazy range, and then we have like Sue, who is 59 years old, and she comes out with like a banger line.
What Sam said? I wrote down what Sam said.
What did you make? Yeah, talk about
Sam,
Sam.
he's the one. He's like a sideline reporter or something in the NFL.
Yeah,
But he said something about being a wolf or a sheep in a wolf's clothing or something. He's like, I'm a wolf in wolf's clothing. I was like, let's
yeah,
go.
that's a bar.
He's
That's a
yeah,
bar.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that was good. Gabe said, I want to be on the first face on the Mount Rushmore of the new era. That's the first words you hear
hmm
as it starts. And Gabe is the guy we talked about in the preview episode. That's the person who I picked to be the fan favorite. And honestly, I feel good about that. But no, epic intro. You feel so much energy and hype. And there was something about this entire episode that was like, I mean, we talk about the new era is just so friendly, but the energy really is so good. It really does feel like everyone's getting along, everyone's figuring each other out, which kind of made, of course, the standout of the episode, Andy, really just like stand out. And that was kind of the weird nature of the episode. The energy was so
Yeah.
amazing, yet we
hmm
were T-boned pretty hard by really the only person that seemed to suffer. They didn't really show us anyone else who were going
hmm
through stuff, because that's normal for Survivor, for someone to but to be this animated this early was
Yeah, I
something.
feel like this early to
um
see that is different.
yeah, and the title of the episode is One Glorious Perfect Episode, um which, hey, like I said, it kind of hits all the beats, but yeah, there was still some really intense drama there with Andy. So we get the three tribes, the blue, the red, the yellow. What do you make of this first moment, Jeff interviewing everyone? What stood out to you here? Anything?
I thought this was pretty like a typical. I didn't think anything stood out that much compared to any other season. I do like though that they're standing on the beach right there. They can see that they're about to go into well, they don't even get to see it actually that they're about to go and challenge. But then he says,
Yeah.
"Hey, come in through the jungle," and they walk in, and then they see that they're about to start. And I liked that part. I like when they start off with a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they picked like a few great people to talk.
Hmm.
John, another kind of standout from the episode. Obviously very articulate. You know, we find out he's a speechwriter. He's a very successful podcaster. Clearly very great with his words. It seems like I kind of got vibes from him this episode that he would be like Mike White a little bit, where Mike White would always give just really great sound bites because he's a
Hmm.
writer and he's been doing it for so long. I
He
kind
knows
of
what they're
thought,
looking for.
yeah, and he knows, yeah, what's a good zinger. Like, I mean, a
Hmm.
regular person's just kind of gonna talk, but a writer can craft the words to where you're like, you're gonna use me a lot, like the confessionals. And I got that vibe from John pretty early. You get that there, then yes, we go to the challenge. Um, Pretty insane. To kind of get right into it, and they talk about
Yeah.
which I felt this. John said it, I guess, later in the episode, but it did kind of feel like a baptism of mud, and Jeff calls it like a birthing of mud, which I heard him talk about on the podcast. I think I like baptism a little better. You go in like you're gonna come out of this game a different person, just like in
Hmm.
baptism. You know, you go down one person, you come up a different, and like mud is just it's so funny because always they have the losing tribe kind of stays in it. They made the two people who have to go on a journey. They had to stay muddy. But you kind of get a feel for the tribes here. What did you make of this challenge?
I mean, I thought it was a really good challenge. I like that they made those pieces. You could tell they were pretty heavy. I think one person
Yeah.
that stood out to me in the challenge was Sue, the oldest woman out there, oldest person out there, and she was carrying one of those pieces all by herself. When I think only maybe one or two other girls were able to carry it by themselves. So
Yeah.
she stuck out to me. I think in that challenge for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, you got to wonder too when they show up that day, and they talked about it a little bit on the podcast. It was a question for Charlie, which was the night before you go there, are you eating well? Are you nervous? Like, is your
Hmm.
stomach like? Do you sleep well? And all that stuff has to factor in, right? It's almost like the night before, like he described it as like the night before a big race. If you're like in a marathoner or something,
Hmm.
but you like it's desperate to get a good night's sleep and good energy, and like yeah, maybe Sue did and was able to pull it off.
Probably
But
how they
yeah,
feel the night before the Hunger Games.
yeah, exactly, dude. You think Katniss slept much? No, hell no, dude. Or before they go into the house, the Big Brother house, you think that people are
Yep,
sleeping well? Hey, I don't know.
they're
I don't
no
know.
too excited.
Yeah, and it's funny. This one is for camp supplies. Second place would get their flint, and then two people from the two losing tribes, go and we'll have a twist. And this was that strength versus savvy twist.
Hmm.
And we get Asia and we get TK. What do you make of these two choices? They do the little rock paper scissors, which I like. I
Yeah,
like that
I
there's a
mean,
couple
yeah,
people who want to do it.
that was a good way to do it, I think for sure. But I think both tribes then look to be almost like some of their stronger players too. So I kind of like that we got this right off the jump, especially once we get to the challenge and we see that it's going to be almost like a one-on-one. Whoever comes back first and gets the final key gets to get the supplies.
Yeah. And what did you make of what Rome said? Rome was like, dude, there's no way I'm giving up these first couple hours of social time to
Hmm.
go on this risky journey. What do you make of that? Because that's a pretty good point. And I think I would, if I was TK or Asia, I would feel like in my head, and especially in the downtime, like, man, what's going on back at camp right now? I
Hmm.
have no idea. And like, I'm gonna have to come
I
in
think
there.
you got to use that to kind of play to your advantage, and you have to use that as extra fuel to go and win that. Because if you come back a winner, that's your
Right, your
graces
hero.
go big. But you come back the loser, that's all the more reason to be the first target up for your tribe.
Pretty wild. There's a chase for keys. You pick TK to be a fan favorite. We talk about your bet.
Yeah.
I think that's a good choice. He's clearly going to be a competitor in all these challenges.
Hmm.
And yeah, he's got some real energy, and I'm curious how that will carry over into social games because like sometimes the big energy challenge guys can't. That doesn't translate to social. So I'm
Hmm.
curious to see how he might play that out. And then we kind of get to after TK wins, we kind of get back to the tribes. I think it was the yellow tribe. We had
Hmm.
Annika. Annika, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Hmm.
Annika. She was the product manager. I think this episode did a really good job showing almost everybody. And
Yeah.
Annika was like clearly given the character of because every couple seasons Survivor, there's always someone who is kind of not bossy, but the person who is
Hmm.
very vocal about how things run. That's Annika, and it
And
seems to go over
it's
well
always
here.
the person that says like, oh, I'm not going to be the person that does all that,
Yeah,
and then they go and do
yeah.
all that.
Yes, dude, exactly. Do you think that would be you at all, or do you think you're gonna kind of stand back and let someone else speak up, depending on everyone's motivation? If really no, if I think
Yeah,
I'd get frustrated if everyone's just standing around, to be honest, or
for
like
sure. But I feel like I would be like, hey, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I think that would be like
right,
my kind of first go
right,
at it.
yeah. I mean that is smart, but it seems to work pretty well for her. And then we hear from Sam, which Sam I think is giving me fan favorite vibes as well,
Hmm.
especially the way he
Oh yeah,
talked about being a glue guy. A glue guy. What do you make of Survivor bringing up glue guy? That is football talk. That
that's a
is
total football
strictly
guy
that's
saying. I
strictly
love
football
that.
talk. How many people in America around the world learned what a glue guy was? But how many people were sitting
Hmm.
there going, "I know exactly what this guy's talking about, and I like him." What do you make of
Oh
Sam?
yeah. Oh, I think he's great. I literally wrote right here on my notes as soon as we got to the Yellow Tribe. I think he drove up the ranks super quick. He got in with the other three like younger people in the tribe too. It looked like they got a pretty tight foursome off the go because they had Andy and John kind of go off on their own, and they went off on their own pretty quick and pretty early. It seemed like,
Yeah,
and I feel like in this day and age, you can't do that early, especially a twosome. You have to have at least three or four to go off if you're going to go off.
yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting. I dude, and even with the Sam thing is, I mean, I was kind of thinking like you guys kind of you would look alike. I think you look alike, not like super similar, but you would be
Yeah,
cast similarly. You know what I mean? If they're looking at the two of
I could
you
see
and they're
that.
like, yeah, you'd be in the same like pile. I think. Um, and then I think a sick moment for Sierra, who is the pageant queen
Mm.
whose dad wanted a son. I think that is an amazing character right there. Like
Oh yeah.
that is a character from that. It reminds me of Robin from How I Met Your Mother. Like, and then the fact that Sierra starts the fire, I was just like, dang, this is just like really good. We're getting good Survivor right here. Like it's
Yeah.
like yeah, it's like watching a good football game where you're like, man, you're getting good drives here, you're getting good hits, you're getting. It was hitting every beat that I'm like, wow, this is awesome because I don't know. Yeah, Sierra getting that moment. The pageant queen does fire. Everyone cheers. Yeah, tribe gets hyped for TK. I got at the blue tribe. And yeah, just great energy from him. This. What do you make of this blue tribe here? Or you got Gabe over there who
Well, we get
you know
we get Gabe who gets the beware advantage
yeah
pretty early, finds it, and I felt like he almost went too quick into it because he TK saw him trying to get the key, and I
yeah
felt like he didn't do a very good job of telling
I
TK
didn't
what was going
either.
on.
I
Because I mean,
agree.
and I mean, TK played it off good because he told Gabe like, "Oh yeah, yeah, like okay, now you still got to find the clue or whatever." And TK behind in the confessional says, "I know he's lying. Like I know he got caught
Yeah
and didn't tell me."
yeah.
So great move by TK.
Yeah, dude. Dude, like Gabe's search for the idol becomes like such a pivotal storyline this episode because
Hmm.
we find out quickly the almost every season there's some sort of idol twist it seems, and this one is that it's like, one of those Russian dolls that, there's a
Hmm.
little
It's
one
exactly what I thought.
inside, you know what I mean? Like there's a big one and then you open it, there's a little one, open it again, a little one, and like it keeps going, and each one has a different layer of how many tribals you get to keep the idol, and he pretty quickly finds that first one, um, and yeah, I don't know. Do you think you keep chasing that? Especially the days are shorter. You don't have like so many days in between tribals to where
Yeah,
you can kind of be like, I can maybe do this in the morning, or I can do this tomorrow.
I think he was in a weird predicament because TK saw him. If I'm him, I think I might have just kept it and just used it at the first one, and maybe even told TK like, "Hey, it's good for one tribal. I'm going to use it."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's weird because is there a rule of like if he doesn't keep moving on in the challenge, like do they have to give it back?
Mm,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like can he just leave it and be like, oh, maybe I'll think about this and I'll come back and I'll trade
Hmm.
it in, or is it like he hands it back to the producers? I'm not sure. Um,
Yeah.
and then I guess we get over to the Red Tribe, where Asia is recognized for from her podcast, and yeah, which is kind of interesting. Did you know her at all? Have you ever followed that podcast?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. And
And
then
Teeny seemed
this.
to like. I think she struck out early for the Red Tribe for me. She kind of
Oh,
made
really?
friends with everybody really quick, but I didn't think she was trying too hard either. I think she was
Yeah,
almost just making genuine connections. I mean, she got the little thing that she got with, I think her name is
yeah,
Genevieve,
yeah,
and then she was like, "Hey, I really like Asia too," and
yeah,
I forget who the fourth one was that they liked, but
yeah, yeah. No, it's Keyshawn is on this one. The ER
that was the other one.
doctor.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Soul, who's a little sassy here, I like. But someone who had a big episode was Rome. And dude,
Hmm.
Rome wearing Nike Elite socks, I think is a very that's something again you gotta highlight, you gotta circle that. That really matches kind of his energy, I think. Because he's confident and he finds a beware clue just like Gabe. And
Hmm.
yeah, that becomes a whole other storyline as well. Um,
Especially because
what what
I
what what
mean,
do you make of
it's
Rome initially? Because again, Rome had that big moment. They give him the confessional of,
yeah.
"Dude, I need this social time." And yeah, I don't know. What do you make of that?
I mean, he says he needs the social time, and then he goes off right away and goes and looks for an advantage.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's just rule number one. You don't go that early and be gone for 10 plus minutes and look for something. I mean, all
yeah,
the other tribe mates noted it, and yeah, I think he's in trouble, honestly. I thought that was
yeah,
a
dude.
bad
I
move.
think yeah, and we're gonna talk about the Gabe a little bit too in a second. But he ultimately stayed pretty clean, even though there was a blunder or
Hmm.
two here. Um, but yeah, like so yeah, they do take us back to the blue tribe where Tiana eats a worm again. Just great survivor. Just have to mention that Tiana, my champion, my
Yeah.
survivor, winner. Glad I got Tiana on my fantasy team too. We'll talk about that later. Um, eats a worm, and then Gabe gets back on the hunt after linking with Sue. What do you make of his like? He was like, dude, he saw Sue and was like, I'm going to align with her right away. Like, is that like what? Do you think you would do that?
I,
Like that you would laser
I
in
don't
on
hate the
someone?
strategy. I don't know if I would do that, but I don't hate the strategy. I think his thought process behind it makes complete sense because a lot of these people have, like we talked about in the past, gotten their like number one tribe mate voted out like really early. I feel like in the merge, and it seems like if you had an older player on your team, they wouldn't want to do that. But at the same time, you can't go to the end with someone like her because I think the storyline she'll beat you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean she seemed determined. Her kind of opener was just about being beaten beaten
Hmm.
down on all these young kids, and so but he lasers in on her, and there is clearly trust here because Gabe
Hmm.
kind of finally unlocks the box and sees the other one and sees that it's either one tribal or it's three tribals if he keeps going, and then we find out that he is one of us, one of us, one of us.
Scared money don't make money.
Um, yeah, Gabe has this decision to make. Does he go for three? Does he stick with one? Because I mean, I think it really was a hassle. He realized going for that first one, and it was so
Hmm.
stressful. And I can't imagine what that feeling is like. That like you feel like, shoot, I got it. I'm here. I did it. And then
Hmm.
it's like, oh, another thing. Which Survivor is good at that. Like, oh, it's another clue. Um,
And then I
what
mean,
do you
he
think
kind of
you?
stumbles on his own too, because like you see the
Yeah,
box like fall down the cave. Everybody back at camp hears it, and
crashes too.
yeah,
Yeah,
just a not
insane.
a good move.
No, no, not a good plan. Um, yeah, dude, it was wild, and that's what I'm saying with Sue is she played along so well in that moment to be like, I think it's a tree. Like I was like, what? I don't know that I would have thought that quick, and I feel like
Yeah,
I'm pretty quick.
you
Um,
wonder if some of them are thinking like, and just not saying anything, that they're thinking that he's looking for an idol or found an idol
yeah,
or found something. Yeah.
right. Yeah, they're like he's over by that rock doing something. Yeah, which he does end up going for the third one.
Hmm.
And yeah, he drops. Is he cutting something down? It's so wild. Uh, yeah, that's a crazy line. And then we move over to the yellow camp,
Yellow tribe, right? Yeah,
the yellow tribe, where they bring up Vine. We got a Vine reference here.
I like that.
I like that we see the old guy perspective too. That he's like, I'm oh no, I'm around a bunch of young people, which is a little bit like where I work, but whatever. Uh, Yeah, we see that. That's a funny moment. I love Vine. And yeah, this is where Andy and Rachel link up. And right away it's uncomfortable. And this is kind of where
Very
we start to
uncomfortable.
oddly, dude, like uncomfortable is the only word you can use.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, we see this like attempted relationship just really get shot down. And it's because Andy is just like so focused and wired onto her. And before this, I don't know. Andy seemed like a fun dude. I was feeling like, oh man, like this guy's gonna be fun. I don't think he's going home. He was my pick to go home first. It's not looking good. But then this is when the live odds started moving in my direction. Because yeah, they go to sleep and he starts spiraling in the night, and he like sits up and he's having like a real scene. And this has been something we've seen more, I feel like, in the last couple of years of
Yeah.
Survivor. And it doesn't get easier to watch, I don't think, because each person has like a different energy or
Hmm.
personality to each thing. But then for him to grab Rachel, is this when he grabs her in the night and says like
In the middle of the
walk
night
away
and
with me?
tries to, yeah.
What did you make of this situation?
I thought
What a
honestly
scene.
that he was. I didn't believe 100% that it was like a real panic attack. I kind of thought that he was trying to do what Ben did last year, even though Ben's were kind of very real. My
Mm,
thing is that, like, why do you need to pull her off to the side? Like, if it really is truly real, say something right there in front of everybody. Like, you're just going to
yeah.
cause so much suspicion if you bring one person to the side, especially in the middle of the night. And the
Yeah.
fact that she says to him, like, hey, I don't think this is a good idea. And he's like, okay, yeah, like, can you sit down? Oh, good for
Yeah,
her
I
for like
wonder.
sitting down with him. I wouldn't have. I
Yeah,
wouldn't have gone off with him in the first place. But
yeah, yeah. Like that is a moment where it's like, yeah, dude, you probably should have said like,
hmm,
you probably should have just been like, hey, guy, hey, everyone, hey, guys, yes,
yeah,
hey,
hmm,
guys, like, everyone,
100%,
like,
yeah,
I'm not doing well. Can you guys can someone talk to me? And then whoever
yeah,
wants to step up, or if
hmm,
everyone does, then that's great.
yeah,
Maybe he didn't want to disrupt the whole tribe. I don't know. But definitely a wild moment.
hmm,
And it doesn't end there. But then we go to commercial, I believe, and we come back to the Blue Tribe, and Gabe is back on the hunt. This is where he's up and at him. He goes has
oh yeah,
slammed the
hmm,
driftwood, which again I'm like, dude, how is no one noticing this? This is another one he's slamming, and he's up early before the sun, just like us. He's built like us. I mean, I'm just saying.
hey,
And epic driftwood scene, man, just slamming that thing away. That was a cool sequence. Do you think it's easier than what Rome gets a little later? Because Rome had to pour water
yeah.
on wood,
That was
and
for
that
his
seemed to
first
take a
clue.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. But yeah, but he didn't get, I guess, to this third one. Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. It's kind of intense, but yeah, he smashes it up, which I guess you got to bring back a whole bunch of firewood if you're doing
for
something,
sure.
if you're causing that kind of racket. Um, but yeah, crazy. And he does. He finds out. We get to the idol chest. I wonder if they're calling it. I didn't hear them name it in the
They
podcast.
really didn't know.
But no, yeah, and so we find out it's Idol-Ception, and he does stop at the 3 tribal mark. It must have just been weighing on him too much, or not worth
Hmm.
the risk, because I think they were
Yeah.
going to an immunity challenge that day. Which maybe this next episode we see pretty quickly he gets back to it, but or if
Hmm.
it's allowed, which I just don't know if it resets or not.
I feel like you'd be
I
allowed to
don't know.
go still, as long as you give the idol up and your vote up.
Yeah, and you don't make it to an immunity challenge yet.
Hmm.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't, but he did say a good line. He's a dragon on a pile of gold. After he has his idol that will last 3 tribals. And remember, dude, he could win out in pre-merge, and his
Hmm.
first couple tribals could be post-merge. Like it just
Yeah.
depends. Um,
And I kind
yeah,
of thought that
and
like blue team physically is probably the most. They look the most physically uh,
yeah,
physical tribe there is. I mean,
yeah.
they don't
TK
have one
Kyle,
person
and
who
yeah,
looks like
Sue.
they're
Like
gonna.
like you
Yeah.
said, you could have said that
Hmm.
Sue is the one maybe
For
slowing him
sure.
down, but she was a beast.
She
And you
did
just
not
can't.
slow him down.
Yeah, not one bit. And then we get back to the Red Tribe, where this is where Rome makes his big
Hmm.
loud splash, looking for an idol. I love that it ends up at the bottom of the well, like
That was
because,
wild,
but
dude.
also, but also, I'm like, dude, did they clean that? Did they replace that water? Is that water okay
Well,
to
I'm pretty
drink?
sure.
He
I think
he
they
was
have
just
to
covered in
boil it
mud,
anyway,
and
so
like
they
every
have to
day.
boil the
Oh,
water.
they take. You think they take the water from the well? I think they can drink it
Yeah.
right from the well.
I don't think so, dude.
Dude, no. I think the Survivor is softer than you think.
I
I
don't know.
1 billion% believe they've said that before that is
That's got to be a new
instant
era thing
drinkable water.
then, because that was not how
It
it used to be.
I want to say it was
I
like in
know
the
for a fact
30s
because
they
I used to
started
see
doing
them
it.
that there was a job where somebody would go and get the water, boil it, put it in the canteens, get more. It was like a whole process. So
Dude,
that has to be a
there was
new
one
era
point where
thing.
there was no well. There was never a well. This is a created well for the
Yeah,
show.
that's crazy.
I'm pretty sure. Well, we'll fact check it. Leave it for next episode. Um, yeah, but doesn't seem to get caught, but it does seem like everyone's
Hmm.
notices that he's gone. But man, that image of him with his feet up in the air in the well, that is exactly what the Survivor producers were hoping for. That is,
Yeah,
they don't want him to get a stick and poke around. They wanted him to do that, and they got that moment, and that's
that
awesome.
definitely is harder than the other one for sure.
Yeah, like that's pretty insane. And it did seem like the beware advantages were right by the path, like
Hmm.
because it was always like go right back to the path, and it's like oh well I was just here. Um, yeah, I don't know. Interesting. But then it doesn't show him go and take that key and get his idol right. Like we're kind
Yeah,
of left hanging.
we don't get much from that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's going to come next episode. So hopefully we'll see that.
Yeah. Well, next, we got to get to the immunity challenge. Maybe that's what it
Yeah.
was. It was the morning of immunity challenge. Brutal boat showing at the
Dude.
beginning. Jeff talked about on the podcast that they did it a bunch of times, and every time that the dream team did it, it worked out well. The dream team, all their PAs who practice or run the challenges, that's who's in
Hmm.
all the videos when they're instructing. They did it, and it was all it went off fine. He was saying though, he's like one thing the dream team doesn't have is they're not playing for $1 million. And so there's a different intensity that
For
comes with
sure.
these people
Yeah.
who are, especially this is their first immunity challenge. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, it kind of goes bad. And he was yelling about how it was the worst start or whatever. Um,
I mean,
we, you know,
it got so bad that like the red team was so far ahead. They got to the puzzle and then like skipped to them and they were done. They didn't even show the red team putting the puzzle together because they were so far
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, no, yeah, it was absolutely easy, but you needed two winners. One was going to
Hmm.
tribal, and this one also it kind of seemed to be close around the puzzle, but then
Hmm.
it was clear that
Blue was pulling away.
yeah, it was clear. It was clear Blue was pulling away, and the camera's really not on the puzzle anymore because
Hmm.
we see Andy standing watching his tribe lose, and he sort of gets a realize. What did you make of this moment? Because I guess what happens is he gets a realization that his team's losing, and
Yeah.
we've already seen the paranoia from him, and he even used the word spiraling.
Hmm.
We see him physically like fall to the ground or lay
Yeah. I
down
mean,
really
he walks over to the shade and then he just kind of lays down and
lays down, which
Jeff kind of notices him.
it was almost like football reference, but like the guy who gets injured and is suddenly like looks around and is like, oh shoot, I'm injured. I need to lay down here for a second. Maybe the panic set all over him because at that point they were standing there. No one was really breathing heavy as much anymore.
Yeah.
It was clearly strenuous, but he lays down and we get this moment. Jeff is like, "Are you okay?" And he kind of doesn't make a noise. Jeff goes over and he says, "Are you okay? Do you need medical?" And he says, "I gave my everything." And Jeff goes, "All right." A great Jeff
One
moment.
of the best parts I think from this too is one of the tribe mates is like, "Do we keep going?" Just like keep going.
Yeah, Jeff's like,
He's like this isn't serious enough to stop the challenge for. Just keep going.
yeah. And yeah, he's out of the challenge. I mean, kind of lucky for them that isn't wouldn't be one that would stop the challenge. He goes down. Medical does come over. We do end up seeing cameras, a moment that doesn't usually happen in Survivor. We see the
Hmm.
crew because they were probably in. I was telling a coworker they were probably in like dark zones, maybe not dark zone. I don't know what they're called. I could ask Jacob, but like places where it's like you cannot walk past there because you're in the
Hmm.
shot. or whatever. But they were just like, we have to get in there because he's laying
Yeah.
down over there. Medic just gives him water, and then he gets up. He's fine. It's okay. But then he admits that he was now trying to think about how he has to throw Jon under the bus.
Hmm.
Was this a move or was this insane behavior?
Dude, I mean, I think it's just insane because even before that, Jeff asks him like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "They were gonna vote me out," and he's saying like they were going to, like they still aren't gonna vote him out, and that to me was just
Right.
so like, what are you talking about, dude? Like they still are gonna
Right.
probably vote you out,
Yeah.
and then I think it's just
Yeah.
insane. I think he's just insane.
Yeah, no, and I was again in this moment going, "Wow, what a good pick by me." I was on it. I knew it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking we might not go to tribal. I was like, "This
Hmm.
might, like, this could be it." And then I don't even know how it was. It's like again back to sports. It's like you kind of are watching the game and you're feeling good about your bet, but then you're like, "Oh, let me go change
Hmm.
the laundry over. Let me go fix up my bathroom a bit." And then you come back to the game and you're like, "Wait, what happened?" This is
Hmm.
like it's a close game again because
Yeah.
for some reason it ends up on Jon, and they're all sitting there talking about it's going to be Andy, but we're going to tell him it's you, Jon. And in that moment, did I thought that was legit? I thought that was the plan.
Dude,
That
I was shocked.
I thought that was it. And then we end up getting Jon and Andy, then talking about Annika, and I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, it was so clear and it was so easy. I don't know how the votes ended up going. Did you see anything there in the social game or how it played out?
The only thing I can think is that was it John that goes up to Sam and tells him that Andy was thinking
Yeah,
Annika? And I
yeah,
think Sam was just thinking, hey, John's playing a little too hard, maybe.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. The person who says that person's playing too hard, you're safe.
Hmm.
That's like
Yeah.
that's got to be a good rule of thumb. Is
Oh,
day
yeah.
one you got to point out that someone else is playing hard. Like that has to be in the
Hmm.
handbook. Um, and that's what Sam does here. And I think he convinces everyone. He's the glue guy, and
Yeah.
everyone's kind of on board with that because they see Jon as intimidating, and they lean into Andy being strength. Do you think that's a valuable thing
Dude,
this point in
I
the
don't.
game?
I think it is, but I don't know where that comes. Where did you see him being strong at? He like passed out at the challenge.
Yeah,
The
I
the
don't
40
get it.
whatever year old was still standing up, doing fine.
Yeah, and Jon 42, Andy 31. I mean, is it really going to be that? I don't know. I don't know.
And I got to think
Um,
maybe they're thinking, hey, like Andy is an easy, you can get Andy out at any time kind of thing. I don't know.
yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, I want to go back to a moment. I think it happened. Does this happen at tribal council or after where Jeff is like, go on another show? This is Survivor. Does that moment happen after the challenge? Of
Yeah,
like
after the
you're still
challenge.
in this, don't give it up. That was a
Hmm.
moment too that was like because I didn't really love his opening this year when he was talking about like
Hmm.
what do you do for your community, and you're starting a new community now, and I'm like, what are we doing here, dude? Like I like last season when he was like, all of you think you're gonna win, but almost all
Hmm.
of you are wrong, and like
Yeah.
that's a good speech. Here, that speech there where it was like Andy was kind of giving up. He's like, "What the heck? No!" Like putting his foot down, but also still being encouraging of like, "Dude, stay in it." And it was a good move by Andy to stay in it because somehow it went his way. We get to tribal. Not a ton really happens. It seems like everyone knows where they're voting. I don't know that Jon was blindsided here either. But Jon goes home.
Yeah.
Another and apparently a lot of people are online are like, already bring him back, bring him back. That's a first vote out, which I guess teams up with Zelensky, maybe somewhat memorable vote outs. What did you make of Jon? Is it?
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
he's as
It's just weird
memorable.
how it played out. It's weird how it played. It
Yeah,
sucks that
definitely
he
weird
went
how it
that way.
played out. I didn't think it was going to happen. I don't think he made that much of a mark on the show. I kind of thought because based off like the that first trailer that they showed that he was like a big part of that first trailer. I thought he was going to go farther,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, sucks for him.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. He had a good closing like moment, he said like, "Oh, now my friends and family have something to make fun of me for
Yeah,
the rest of my life." I'm like, "That's great. That's good. That's a good
it
spirit
is.
about it." But that's got to be crushing. I don't know how, if I did finally apply and I did somehow make it and I got out first, dude. I don't. That would be
And
tough.
if I
That's
got
got to
out
be.
based on that too, like there was a clear person who should have gone home, and I go
Yeah,
home. Oh,
I could get over a lot of things, but
hmm
getting out Survivor first after loving the show as long as it's been on, and oh, that would be painful. But you know, Jeff had high praise for him. I think they used him in the trailer a lot because he, is a name, and again, he was putting words together so well. Um, yeah, I don't know.
yeah,
That is all from the episode. Wow. So our bets. I had Andy going home first. I was closest, but it
yeah,
doesn't matter because I didn't get it.
yeah.
Andy does not go home. You had
I
Rachel
had
going
Rachel.
home,
Yeah,
which I don't know. I feel like we didn't hear from Rachel a ton. I don't feel like we
not a
didn't hear
whole
from
lot.
Caroline. We didn't hear from a ton. Saul. It seems like we might see from him a bit next
Hmm
episode. Yeah. All right. What do you want to get into first? Stock up, stock down?
Sure.
Yeah. Who do you got?
Stock up for me was Sue. I think just based on
Nice.
probably where I had her ranked pre first episode, I think she rose the most for me. I think she got herself into some good alliances on the Blue Tribe. She showed that she's a good, strong. She's not going to hold your team back. So she's stock up for me.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go Gabe here, and I think Sue is actually a big reason. Like, I think
Hmm
you have a clear. We saw action with trust here. Like, I think that was super clutch and super key. Um, from Sue and Gabe. Like, you got to see that relationship actually bear some fruit there, and then of course him winning that idol for three tribals.
hmm
It's funny. I said this in the preview episode, but in his bio he wrote if I have an idol, I'm going to use it. And I
Yeah.
said that will be his demise. If I predict that, man, which I think it's looking good. It's looking good.
We'll see.
All right, it is looking great. We will see. But I think it's Gabe for obvious reasons.
Hmm
But there are a lot of great people in this season. I do think the cast is solid. I think we're gonna have some good drama. Everything's happy and fun, but the big personalities are going to clash, and I think
hmm
it's gonna be epic. And I like my Tiana pick. That feels good for a winner. Who did you have as winner? You had
I had
oh yeah
Asia.
you had Asia, which
I don't hate
yeah
it. I don't love
I
it,
don't
but
either. And could you imagine if, I mean, just a Survivor podcast host comes on? That's
I
wild,
do have
man.
her and Sam on my in the fantasy league, and I'm very
Look,
happy with the Sam pick.
Asia, she is walking for Survivor podcasters, so maybe one of us could run. Okay, so I don't
Hey,
know. I don't know. I don't know.
one
Okay,
day
it's who knows. Okay, let's go stock down. We might have the same person here.
I got
Who-
Rome.
Rome. Ooh,
Yep.
yeah. Rome's a good pick.
Yeah. I think that Andy's like already so far down. I don't think his stock can go further down. So I picked Rome.
Yeah. Yeah, and Andy is kind of actually in a weird safe place where he's like, let's keep him around because I think, yeah,
Hmm
I mean, Rome, obviously, of all of them, like, that's the thing about Gabe is why his stock is up. He doesn't have a target on his back. People don't necessarily know that he's searching for. I mean, TK might be onto him a bit, but that could be an alliance thing. Who knows? We don't really see how these kind of other tribes who didn't go to tribal how they're fully aligning. But Red is pretty clear that Rome is the guy, and Soul seems to be a guy in the preview and in this episode that is like going to be sniper on Rome and going to push that charge. So yeah, I
hmm
think I agree with you. Stock is down on Rome. Um, all right, Survivor press conference. You got any questions for Jeff? Questions for the castaways? What would you
My
have asked
question
them?
was for TK because in the whole like when Jeff's talking to them all about post challenge with Andy and everything, TK they kind of pan to him and he rolls his eyes a little bit, or he shakes his head. I couldn't really tell what it was, so I
Huh.
wanted to ask him what was it about. Was he more shaking his head about the things Andy was saying, or feeling bad for him about the things he was saying?
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's funny because out on Survivor, yeah, some people have a lot of grace for that, and some
Hmm.
are just like, dude, what? This is all of our dreams. Like,
Yeah.
it's there. You always get an interesting mix from the cast. My question comes, because just feel like Survivor has a name for everything, or they're like usually on shows, like certain places have certain names. Everything's labeled. I want to know, Jeff. What is the name of your little bridge that you run on during the challenges? Because we see a good angle of it because Red is so far ahead. Is it Red? It was Red, right? Where he's like, no,
Yeah.
Red, go, you're good. And we're so far back that we see Jeff on that bridge that is
Yeah.
only made for him to run out there and yell. They have to have a name for it. And like I want to ask him what his relationship with that bridge is like. Because
Hmm.
if he's fallen in, if he's gotten close, if like yeah, how he manages that because again,
Yeah.
he's an all-time host because of how physical this game is too. It's a physical
Hmm.
for host too, and I want to know there's probably a name for that bridge.
That's
Is it a
funny. I
bridge? Is
like
it a
that.
platform? Is it a dock? It's a dock.
I think
Yeah, Jeff's dock.
it might be a dock. Yeah.
Could you pull a boat up to it? But it more is yeah. It seems like for walking. I don't know. Yeah. So all right. So rename the episode. Let's rename the episode before we get into who's going home next week. Um, yeah. For this episode was one glorious and perfect episode. I don't really love that title actually. We can do better.
Yeah.
What do you got?
I ended up going with what Jeff says during the challenges, keep going. And I think
Keep
that's
going.
kind of a good marker for even just talking to like Andy, almost wanting to not quit, but giving up and thinking he was the one going home. Like, no, keep going, keep fighting. You're
Yeah.
never out until your torch is snuffed.
Yeah. I like that. Keep going. Keep going. That's important. I am going to go with Dragon on a Pile of Gold. I thought that was good. I
I like
think
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Good
I
line.
think it's a bar. I think again, I'm glad I picked Gabe. I think Gabe is in a great position in this game, but I also think, the game is imperfect and
Hmm.
we'll see how it shakes out. Sue is a good person to have. All right, so those are two good titles. Who do we think is going home next week? Uh, who do you got?
I see a similar scenario to last season with how Purple Tribe last season kept losing. I see this with Yellow, and I think Andy goes home next week.
Wow, you see a Banu situation shake out.
Banu, so he's the Banu of the season.
Yeah, I mean, if he's already having this tough of a time,
Hmm.
he's we're only just gonna see that doesn't get better. It doesn't get easier.
No.
You know what I mean? You don't see people go like, "Oh, I was super panicked and now I'm chill and this game is easy."
Hmm.
So yeah, that's not a bad pick. But let's say the Yellow Tribe wins. Um, but see, Rome could go to the chest and then
Hmm.
gamble and lose,
Yeah.
and that whole tribe could be on him. So I'll take Rome. And I know those
Yeah.
are kind of two stock down people. If
Hmm.
Blue Tribe goes to, gosh, yeah, if Blue Tribe goes, dude, I could see, I don't know. That's a tough
I
one.
don't
We
know.
didn't see them
Yeah.
enough. We just saw him chasing idols that whole time. We didn't see a lot of
Hmm.
social there. All right, so I'm going Rome. You're going Andy. Pretty good choices. I feel pretty good. I
Yeah.
think one of us is right. All right, Richie. Thanks again, man, for doing this.
Hey, I'm glad to be back.
I am glad to follow along. We're gonna watch every week. The episodes will not be as long as this one. It's a big opener. There's a lot to talk about, a lot to cover. We'll see you next time.